For this video, we will be talking about section 2.6, which is solving proportions. Our one and only vocab word for today is a proportion. And this is an equation stating that two ratios are equivalent. Ratios also meaning fractions here. So stating that two fractions or ratios are equivalent. Our little key concept here for the cross products property of proportions. This tells you that the cross products of a proportion are equal. So if you have A over B equals C over D, then you can multiply A and D and set that equal to B and C over here. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and look at our examples here. So starting with number one, again, when there's an equal sign in between two fractions, that is when we use the cross products property. Please don't confuse that with like 2/3 times 5/7. If there is a multiplication sign in between them, that is when you multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. But in this case, since there is an equal sign, this is when we cross multiply. So I would take x times 12, which would be 12x, and then take 9 times 8 and set that equal to 9 times 8 would be 72. Then we're going to divide both sides by 12. We're going to finish solving this equation here, and we would get x equals 6 for our answer. Next one on number two, I always like my x term to go first. Technically, you would do 4 times 14 first to follow that A times D, but really, you can switch either of those sides. So I like to make my x term go first, so I'm going to do 7 times x and get 7x first. Then I'm going to do 4 times 14 and get 56 here. Then divide both sides by 7, and we get x equals 8 for our answer here. Next one, number 3. I see my x term right here multiplying with a 3, so I'm going to do that first. I get 3x times, equals 6 times 5 would be 30. Divide both sides by 3, and x is 10. On this last one for this row, we would do x times 5 and get 5x, and then do 10 times -4 and get -40. Divide both sides by 5, and x equals -8. Okay, on number 5 here, you'll see that we now have x plus 4 on the top of one fraction. So the x plus 4 is being multiplied by this 2 here. So instead of just putting the two things together like we have been side by side, we actually have to take that 2 and distribute it to x plus 4 and set that equal to 8 times -6 would be -48. Now we have a few more steps we have to take care of here. So then I have 2 times x and 2 times 4 would give me 2x plus 8 equals -48. Then I would subtract 8 from both sides, and we have 2x equals -56. Divide both sides by 2, and x equals -28 for our final answer. Number 6 is going to be very similar to that. Forget that I did this over here. This has nothing to do with the problem. I just wanted to talk about that really quick earlier. Again, I like my x term to go first, so I'm going to multiply these two together. So I have 4 times x minus 4 equals 7 times 8 would be 56. Distribute the 4 to the x and the -4. We have 4 minus 16 equals 56. Add 16 to both sides, and we have 4x equals 72. Divide both sides by 4, and we have x equals 18 for our final answer. And that is it for the front page. So let's go ahead and flip over to the back. Alrighty, on the back here, you'll see that we are solving a proportion with 2 missing quantities. So again, I'm going to take 4 times 2x plus 7. And I'm going to have to write that out because I have to distribute, and then equals -6 times x would just be -6x in this case. Distribute the 4, I get 8x plus 28 equals -6x. Now, typically I would subtract 28 from both sides. However, there's only one constant left and it's only 28, so it doesn't really make sense to move the constant. So I'm actually going to subtract 8x from both sides. So then I have 28 equals -14x. Divide both sides by -14, and x equals -2. On number 8, we have 2 times this quantity, 4x plus 1. So 2 times 4x plus 1 equals 3 times x plus 9. So then if I distribute on the left, I get 8x plus 2. And if I distribute on the right, I get equals 3x plus 27. I'm going to subtract 3x both sides to get my variables all on the same side. So I have 5x plus 2 equals 27. Subtract 2 from both sides, and we have 5x equals 25. And then divide both sides by 5, and we have x equals 5 for our final answer. Okay, on number 9, our last one here for this section, I'm going to take 3 times x plus 4. So 3 in parentheses x plus 4 equals 4 times the quantity x plus 1. So then distribute. We have 3x plus 12. And then distribute again on the right side. We have 4x plus 4. I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. And I have negative x. Be very careful you don't drop that negative there. Plus 12 equals 4. And then I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. Negative x equals negative 8. I still have to get rid of this negative right here, so I have to divide everything by negative 1. 2 now makes this x positive. And then again, 2 negatives on the right-hand side also makes that 8 positive as well. So our answer on that one would be x equals 8. Now, looking at these word problems down here, first things first, always, I'm actually going to try to zoom in here a little bit more to give myself some more space. We always have to define a variable. So first things first, on number 10, x is going to represent the number of cups of pineapple juice. Or you could have done cups of pineapple juice and put equals x here. Either way, I would be totally fine with that. So Palmer is making fruit punch to sell from her food truck by mixing cranberry juice and pineapple juice. So it's 8 parts to 3 parts. So basically how we're going to set this proportion up is by putting cranberry juice on top and putting pineapple on the bottom. So basically what we're taking is we're taking the ratio it needs to be, the 8 parts to 3 parts, and then we're going to set it equal to what she's actually trying to make. So it's almost like she's doubling the recipe or tripling the recipe, but we really don't know because they've only given us 3 different numbers to work with, and they're not telling us exactly how much of that one recipe she needs. So setting up a proportion would help us figure that out. So starting with the cranberry juice that we know, we have 8 parts of cranberry juice over 3 parts of pineapple juice. So again, cranberries on top, pineapples on the bottom. Set that equal to, we don't know how many cups of pineapple juice we need, so that means x has to go on the bottom. And she wants to mix it with 48 cups of cranberry juice. Again, so cranberry for both of those, 8 and 48 are on top. 3 and x, because we don't know how much pineapple juice we actually need, are going on the bottom. So now that we have that set up ready to go, we can go ahead and start solving this. So I have 8 times x would be 8x equals 3 times 48 would give me 144. Divide both sides by 8, and I get x equals 18. But then again, since this is a word problem, we have to answer in words. So Palmer needs 18 cups of pineapple juice. That would be our answer on that. Now, looking at number 11, we have Sarah Beth is making a plant food mixture to use in her garden. The mixture is to be 20%. Whoa, what's happening? There we go, 20% plant food and 80% water. She needs to make 12 gallons of the mixture to cover her entire garden. Write and solve a proportion to find the amount of plant food that she will need. So first things first, just like we did on the last one, we have to define our variable. She is trying to find the amount of plant food she will need. So we're going to say X is plant food. Now, just like the word problem up above, we're going to try to figure out what should go on top and what should go on the bottom. We're talking about the mixture itself is to be 20% plant food. If the rest of it is water, we don't care about the water because all we're focused on is how much of it needs to be plant food. So if it's 20% plant food, That would mean 20% out of 100%. So what we're going to say here is we're talking about gallons. So we're going to put gallons on top, and then we're going to put the total on the bottom. If we made, for example, 100 gallons, thinking of the 100%, if we made 100 gallons, that means out of that, 20 gallons would have to be plant food. So that's kind of our ratio that we're starting with, if you will, kind of similar to what we talked about on number 10. So starting with the 20% plant food, or 20 gallons of plant food for every 100 gallons you make, we're going to set it equal to what she's actually trying to make. She's making 12 gallons of the mixture. That would be the total. So we're going to put 12 on the bottom here. And then we're trying to figure out how much plant food she needs to actually make. So that would be X there. So then from here, we would cross multiply. So I have 100 times X would give me 100X, and then equals 20 times 12 would give us 240. Then we're going to divide both sides by 100, and we end up with X equals 2.4. Now, again, with a word problem, we have to label our final answer. So then we would say that she needs to make, sorry, I got cut off, 2.4. Well, if my pen will work here. Oh, there we go. 2.4 gallons of plant food. Now, I do want to make something else very clear here. We are ending up with a decimal in this problem. It does not make sense to say 240 over 100 gallons of plant food. That would just be kind of silly to say out loud. So in word problems, again, that would be an exception to having decimals for answers. So with that being said, that is it for your notes.